Thomas Jefferson and the Republican Party. Hamilton's success in getting his plans through Congress alarmed Thomas Jefferson and his fellow Republicans. In Jefferson's view, almost everything Hamilton did to put the United States on the path to greatness was instead a step down the road to ruin. The two men held very different views on almost everything. Personal background. Jefferson was born in Virginia to an old and respected family. One of 10 children, he was gifted with many talents. As a boy, he learned to ride, hunt, sing, dance, and play the violin. Later, he carried a violin with him in all his travels. Jefferson was also a gifted student. When he entered college at age 16, he already knew Greek and Latin. He seemed to know something about almost everything. He once wrote that not a sprig of grass is uninteresting to me. This boundless curiosity would remain with him all his life. Jefferson grew up to be a tall, lanky man with reddish-brown hair. Abigail Adams, the wife of John Adams, wrote that his appearance was not unworthy of a god. With land inherited from his father, Jefferson set himself up as a Virginia tobacco planter. Like other planters, he used slaves to work his land. Once he was established as a planter, Jefferson entered Virginia politics. As a politician, he lacked the ability to make stirring speeches. Instead, Jefferson spoke eloquently with his pen. His words in the Declaration of Independence and other writings are still read and admired today. View of human nature. Jefferson's view of human nature was much more hopeful than Hamilton's. He assumed that informed citizens could make good decisions for themselves and their country. "I have so much confidence in the good sense of men," Jefferson wrote when the Revolution broke out in France, "that I am never afraid of the issue where reason is left free to exert force." Jefferson had great faith in the goodness and wisdom of people who worked the soil, farmers and planters like himself. "State a problem to a plowman, or a farmer, and a professor," he said, "and the former will decide it often better than the latter." Best form of government. Republicans favored democracy over any other form of government. They had no patience with the Federalist view that only the best people should rule. To Republicans, this view came dangerously close to monarchy or rule by a king. Republicans believed that the best government was the one that governed the least. A small government with limited powers was most likely to leave the people alone to enjoy the blessings of liberty. To keep the national government small, they insisted on a strict construction or interpretation of the Constitution. The Constitution, they insisted, meant exactly what it said, no more and no less. Any addition to the powers listed there, such as the creation of a national bank, was unconstitutional and dangerous. Along with a weak national government, Republicans favored strong state governments. State governments, they argued, were closer to the people, and the people could control them more easily. Strong state governments could also keep the national government from growing too powerful. Ideal economy. Like most Americans in the 1790s, Jefferson was a countryman. He believed that the nation's future lay not with Federalist bankers and merchants, but with plain Republican farm folk. "Those who labor in the earth," he wrote, "are the chosen people of God, if ever he had a chosen people." Republicans favored an economy based on agriculture. They opposed any measures, such as the National Bank, designed to encourage the growth of business and manufacturing. In their view, the National Bank was not only unconstitutional, but anti-farmer. While the bank was happy to loan money to business people to build factories and ships, it did not make loans to farmers to buy land. Relations with Britain and France. Another issue that sparked heated arguments between Republicans and Federalists was the French Revolution. Most Americans favored the Revolution until it turned violent and led to war. As you have read, most Federalists then turned against the new French Republic and sided with Great Britain. For this change of heart, a Republican newspaper branded the Federalists British bootlickers. Despite the violence of the Revolution, most Republicans continued to support France. While regretting the bloodshed, they argued that a few thousand noble heads was a small price to pay for freedom. For their loyalty to France, Republicans were scorned in a Federalist newspaper as frog-eating, man-eating, blood-drinking cannibals. In 1793, the French government sent Edmond Genet to the United States as its new official representative. Jeanette preferred to be called citizen, using the title adopted by French revolutionaries to emphasize the equality of all people. His mission was to convince Americans that they should join France in its war against Great Britain. Citizen Jeanette was welcomed by Republicans as a conquering hero. As he traveled about the country preaching against kings and nobles, he was cheered by large crowds. In Philadelphia, the nation's temporary capital, a great banquet was held in his honor. Throughout the city, people drank toasts to Citizen Jeanette and to France. The cheering crowds quickly went to Jeanette's head. When he formally presented himself to President Washington, he expected another warm and enthusiastic reception. Washington, however, did not want to be drawn into war with Britain. His response to Jeanette was cool and dignified. Jeanette began making speeches attacking the president. "I live in the midst of continual parties," he crowed. "Old man Washington is jealous of my success and of the enthusiasm with which the whole town flocks to my house." These attacks on Washington brought thousands of Jeanette's supporters into the streets of Philadelphia. Day after day, recalled Vice President Adams, the protesters threatened to drag Washington out of his house, in effect, bring about a revolution in the government, or compel it to declare war in favor of the French Revolution. This was too much, even for Jefferson. Washington's cabinet agreed that Jeanette had to go, calling him hot-headed, disrespectful, and even indecent toward the president. Secretary of State Jefferson asked the French government to recall its troublesome representative.